A group of scientists descended into the Mariana Trench and accidentally stumbled upon a nest of ferocious monsters. There's no place left in the world untouched by humans. The Mariana Trench is no exception. The oil company Tian Industries is constructing the deepest well in the world, reaching 11 kilometers deep. In their quest to be the first and unique in the oil market, the corporation continues to drill into the ocean floor, disregarding the destruction of the ecosystem and the irreversible consequences. News of strange incidents at great depths keeps leaking out. Mysterious disappearances of crew members, prolonged isolation from the real world, and later a deep-sea explosion discredit the megacorporation, not to mention rumors of abnormal tremors and the emergence of a new species of deep-sea creatures. Tian Industries continues its operations, covering up any traces. The main character, Nora, is one of the 316 crew members working at the Kepler station, which is primarily responsible for operating the Roebuck drilling rig. Nora has been underwater for many months and has long lost track of the difference between day and night. While she's brushing her teeth, the lights start flickering in the compartments, possibly caused by strange sounds outside the station. During her morning routine, she finds a spider in the sink, which has somehow decided to leave its hiding spot. Her first thought is to wash it away, but after a moment, she helps the arachnid escape its slippery trap. Nora recalls the words of her beloved, who taught her not to think about the passage of time but to try to live in the present. His positive outlook is vastly different from hers, but at this moment, Nora is grateful for her cynicism, which helps her stay sane. Suddenly, the noises outside start to sound like something banging on the walls. A drop of water falls from the ceiling and hits her hand, and a second later, water starts pouring in, breaking through the station's shell and flooding the compartment. Nora dashes towards the exit, shouting to warn her colleagues about the breach. The system announces a compartment has lost its seal. At one of the corridor intersections, Nora runs into Rodrigo. When they reach the exit, they find the airlock system malfunctioning, with the monitor showing an error. Using a screwdriver, Nora pries open the control panel and short-circuits the contacts to restart the system. Two more people run down the corridor, and Nora waits for them to reach safety, but as the rapid flow of water catches up, Rodrigo urges her to press the button. Torn between humanity and her responsibility to the station's functionality, Nora reluctantly closes the airlock, sacrificing 2 lives to save the hundreds remaining. The isolated compartment explodes and collapses under the pressure of 50 tons of water. The blast wave hits Rodrigo and Nora, throwing them away from the door and knocking them unconscious. The system alerts them that the station faces total depressurization due to the emergency. Injured and bleeding, they try to contact the rest of the crew, but no one responds. Rodrigo suspects an earthquake with a magnitude of 11. Nora hears terrifying noises resembling a deep roar, so without wasting time, they bandage their wounds and move to the nearest compartment with an escape pod. Upon reaching the server room, Nora, being a technical specialist, reboots one of the computers and diagnoses the station's condition. She informs Rodrigo it wasn't an earthquake and that 70% of the station is destroyed. Just as Nora concludes they might not make it out, she spots the location of the next set of escape pods on the electronic map. Navigating through the collapsed corridors, they hear a man's voice. They find Paul, the joker of the team, trapped under debris and manage to pull him out unharmed. Handing him his lucky rabbit sock, Nora informs them their only path is through a collapsed ventilation shaft. With the upper deck about to cave in, the trio quickens their pace. In the narrow tunnel, Nora stumbles upon Mac Ellen's still warm body. Moving her arm aside, Nora continues and descends into the necessary compartment, only to find no escape pod but a living station captain, trying to call for reinforcements on the radio. As Nora hacks the door system, Captain Lucien orders Paul and Rodrigo to check the submersible equipment and discovers that they are in an almost hopeless situation.
On a scale from 1 to 10, how bad's my rig?
10.
Captain Lucien informs Nora that 22 people have already been sent to the surface to bring help to those left behind. However, Nora is puzzled as to why Lucien didn't go with them, considering he has a daughter. Lucien believes a captain leaves the ship last, so instead of continuing the conversation, he begins to follow protocol. He provides first aid to Nora, stopping the bleeding from her ear and checking her pupils to rule out a concussion. Paul and Rodrigo report to the captain that all the submersible equipment is down, prompting Lucien to send Nora to the equipment compartment. There, she encounters Emily Haversham and Liam Smith. Relieved to see them alive, Nora learns they haven't been able to contact anyone. The station shakes more violently by the minute, and Nora informs them that the cooling equipment on the upper deck is destroyed. This means Kepler's core will soon explode, leaving nothing of the 6-member team. Faced with a desperate situation, Captain Lucien suggests the group descend in the cargo lift to the bottom of the Mariana Trench and walk to the Roebuck station to increase their chances of survival. Paul, hearing this, is confused as to why Nora bothered rescuing him, as their suits aren't designed for such a journey, not to mention the lack of oxygen. The captain reassures them that he has a plan. They will travel halfway through the tunnel to the midway station, where they can recharge and clean their rebreathers. From there, they will follow beacons across the plateau to the Roebuck drilling rig. Rodrigo proposes they head to the Shepherd station instead, as it's much closer, but the captain, seemingly hiding something, dismisses this idea, stating that Shepherd has been out of operation for a long time. Liam plays the team a recording of the last signal from the drilling platform. The recording captures screams for help mixed with the growls of an unidentified creature. Instruments show the water temperature outside rising sharply by 10 degrees, an unusual occurrence at such depths. The team doubts the captain's decision, as many of them are inexperienced divers, and the risks of dying are high. However, there is no other choice. Paul turns on some driving music and cranks up the volume. Rodrigo checks all the helmets for integrity to prepare 6 for the team, but one has a small defect. Nora helps the captain put on his metal suit despite his broken arm and then dons her own. While everyone prepares for the dive, Paul and Liam arm themselves. Lucienne explains how to handle the dangerous suits and gives final instructions. Emily doubts she can make the journey, but Liam and the captain promise to stay by her side. The system announces the compartment is depressurized, and the group slowly submerges into the pool. Nora watches the airlock close above their heads, realizing things will never be the same. Lucienne instructs the team to jump into the cargo lift as soon as they reach the depth, though he doesn't explain why the rush. As they open the outer hatch, which is barely holding together, Rodrigo notices a small crack in his helmet growing. When the stubborn door mechanism finally works, Nora sees Rodrigo's suit compromised and begs them not to open the hatch, but it's too late. The sudden pressure change at the pool's bottom tears Rodrigo apart. The captain instructs Emma to keep her eyes closed until he says it's safe, and urges Nora to get a grip, as she's the last one to jump into the lift. Once inside, Nora reveals that Rodrigo knew about his helmet's defect and recalls him consciously giving her an intact one. The 5-member team moves along the planned route. While Paul reminisces about how Rodrigo could always make him laugh, the captain spots a beacon under the lift on the radar. Believing someone is signaling for help from one of the pods, Lucienne sends Paul and Liam to investigate. Paul gives his lucky rabbit sock to Emily, asking her to keep it safe. While Nora sets up the cameras, Emily asks if anyone in the group has family or children. The captain mentions that he has a 14-year-old daughter. Nora is surprised because, according to Lucienne, his daughter is the same age as hers. Assuming it's a slip of the tongue due to stress, the team continues preparing for their excursion outside. At first, Paul and Smith can't see anything in the pitch darkness, but they soon find a distorted capsule covered in fibrous slime. Inside, they discover a wallet and, nearby, its owner tangled in a rope. Suddenly, the corpse starts to move, and at that moment, something attacks the team. Back in the elevator, the men bring in the creature that had been eating the victim and then attack them. Liam manages to shoot it. The creature had tentacles lined with claws. Emily examines the unidentified deep-sea creature with interest, noting its occasional spasms and suggesting that they might have drilled into a hydrothermal pocket that sustains these organisms at such depths. Unexpectedly, the power system fails, plunging the station into darkness. With a little distance left before they reach the ocean floor, Nora tries to figure out how to get through it. At that moment, something touches the elevator's outer shell. Paul hopes it's not a monster from the movie 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, and the team starts to wonder just how mature the creature they shot was. When the captain shines a light through the elevator's transparent window, he sees a monster sitting on it. The group also witnesses their station, Kepler, explode, and the shockwave accelerates the cargo elevator's descent. The team rushes to the pressure chamber, dons their helmets after checking for a proper seal, and floods the chamber with water to prevent being crushed upon landing. Once they reach the bottom, they quickly head for the tunnel, dodging debris along the way. Nora trips and falls, but Liam Smith helps her up, a gesture that costs him dearly as flying debris damages his rebreather, potentially rendering him immobile underwater in the future. When the team finally enters the access tunnel to the drilling station, Nora quickly removes Liam's helmet and retrieves the broken filter from his suit, which had caused him to inhale toxic gas. After catching his breath, Liam feels weak and can barely stand. Nora once again starts the tunnel system in an unconventional way, and within a minute, a cart arrives to take the Kepler crew halfway to their destination. However, the pumping system is damaged, and part of the tunnel floods with water, forcing the team to proceed on foot. Emily, spotting someone's belongings in the water, is on the verge of a breakdown as she realizes the owner didn't make it out. The rising water through the cracks adds to the tension, and ahead, they face an unpleasant surprise. What appears to be a dead end prompts Nora, being the smallest, to risk checking under the debris. Nora grabs a rope and easily swims through a gap, finding the path to the midway station continues beyond it. Once Emily and Lucienne join her, it's Smith's turn. Paul hands Smith a pack of cookies he initially planned to eat himself, but in a gesture of goodwill, he gives them to Smith. Emily, the joker of the group, blesses the crew with strong relationships. As Liam Smith makes his way through the tunnel, Paul hears strange sounds behind him. Seconds later, the entire team hears his voice abruptly cut off. The captain orders them to pull the rope quickly to extract Smith from the debris. When they manage to pull him out, Paul removes his helmet and informs them that they are indeed being pursued underwater. Paul tries to detach the rope, but it's stuck on a rock. Suddenly, the rope starts pulling him underwater. In a hurry, Paul hands his rabbit to the team and asks them to put his helmet on, so he can survive underwater if needed. The deep-sea creature pulls on his leg so hard that it literally rips him out of his suit. The pressure on his head becomes too much, causing it to burst right before his friend's eyes. Losing another person, 4 of them make it to the Midway station, situated at a depth of 10.5 kilometers. The captain futilely tries to contact anyone, but the station is in such a terrible condition that any extra movement will instantly cause a breach, and tons of water will crush it in mere seconds. From this perspective, it's clear that something or someone has caused irreparable damage to the 6-ton drilling rig. Emily believes the ocean is seeking revenge because humanity interfered with the natural course of nature. Perhaps the drilling awakened some ancient beings, now acting as forest caretakers. Since Smith's filtration system is broken, he asks to be left behind so as not to be a burden. Nora tells Smith not to argue, as no one will stay here waiting for their end. Since there's no way to get a new rebreather, Emily and Captain Lucien lead Smith by the arms, urging him to take short, shallow breaths to conserve oxygen in his malfunctioning suit. Nora, shining her flashlight, sees billions of larvae of deep-sea life forms floating in the water. Crossing the plateau, the group is attacked by monsters. One of them drags Smith into a cave but for some reason leaves him alive. Captain and Nora find the guy and rescue him, but Lucien returns to the cave to retrieve the weapons. The monster takes advantage and pulls the rope to which the captain and Nora are attached. It's so massive that it effortlessly pulls the 2 people up. Nora and Lucien are saved by a falling part of the exploded station, resembling a flying saucer. Clinging to it, they drift downward slowly. However, the captain gets tangled in the ropes. While Nora tries to help Lucien, the same monster attacks her and latches onto her helmet. Desperate to save his ward, the captain desperately stabs the creature, provoking it. As a result, the creature again drags the people away at high speed. Defects appear on Nora's helmet, because the pressure level is so critical that it could soon crush them. The captain asks Nora to let go of the rope, but she refuses. Then Lucien disconnects the girl himself and flies higher before exploding. Nora comes to her senses near the Shepherd Station, located at a depth of 10.8 kilometers. With her last strength, she reaches the entrance and surprisingly easily activates the system. She removes the malfunctioning suit and feels that this is the end. Sitting on the wet floor, the girl's body starts shaking, and in that moment, the only moral support for her is the locket of her beloved one. Coming to her senses, Nora tries to contact Emily and Smith, indicating her location, where, unfortunately, there are no capsules but there is some oxygen left. Turning her head to the right, Nora sees a photograph of Lucien. Later, she finds the captain's personal locker, still containing his uniform. In his pocket, Nora finds a photograph of Elie Lucien, who died at the age of 14. She deeply regrets his loss, but her attention is drawn to a map on the back wall of the locker. It depicts the Roebuck station, from which red threads diverge in different directions, connecting the station with drawings of monsters. Now Nora understands why the captain asked to jump into the cargo lift immediately and why he seemed completely unsurprised by what was happening. Seeing her broken filter, Nora begins to frantically think about how to fix it, but nothing comes to her foggy mind. The only thing she finds at the station is an old-style spacesuit. Nora calculates the distance to the drilling rig on the map and, armed with a signal launcher with 2 rounds, she sets off. Doubts about whether to go or stay are put to rest by Paul the rabbit, whom Nora promised to deliver to his loved ones. Walking in pitch darkness along the signal beacons, Nora continues to talk to her companions, hoping they will hear her. Suddenly, Emily's voice comes on her frequency, talking about her love for the ocean. Besides her voice, Nora hears Smith's heavy breathing. Nora unsuccessfully tries to shout to her companion. Shortly after, she witnesses Emily confessing her love to Smith, who is likely in such a state that he doesn't even understand her words. By some miracle, Nora spots Emily up ahead and rushes to catch up with her. But since Emily didn't expect to see her there, she gets startled by Nora's sudden approach. Emily closes her eyes and screams in fear, but as soon as she realizes who it is, she tells Nora that she's decided to see it through to the end. All this time, the petite and fragile Emily has been dragging the barely alive Smith along the ocean floor toward the station, but now they join forces together. With just a look, Nora conveys to Emily that the captain is no longer with them. Due to the lack of oxygen, the girls feel intoxicated, and in an attempt to lift their spirits, Nora tells Emily the story of her dog Jamie, once owned by her boyfriend. Her boyfriend used to be Smith's best friend, and they all used to dive together. One night, Nora's boyfriend decided to go into the sea alone and didn't return for a long time. When Nora went searching for him with a rescue team, it was too late, they never found him. After that, the worst thing for Nora was feeling helpless and the collapse of all hope. It nearly killed her, and she made Smith promise never to bring up that tragedy again. After the story, Nora sincerely advises Emily to never let go of her loved one. The seemingly endless journey is finally overcome. The trio reaches the Roebuck station at a depth of 11.1 kilometers. The bright drilling rig illuminates the space with red light. Nora and Emily find hundreds, if not thousands, of monsters, likely either asleep or in hibernation. Turning off the lights on their suits, the remaining crew makes their way through a tunnel of organic beings. They can't go quietly, as Emily's alarm goes off, indicating critically low oxygen levels. At that moment, one of the monster's paws descends onto Nora's helmet. She asks Emily to continue dragging Smith toward the station without stopping. The monster engulfs Nora almost entirely, but that's exactly what she needs. She fires a projectile into it, piercing its shell and saving her life. A minute later, Nora watches as hundreds of creatures abruptly rise upward. The floor of the Mariana Trench vibrates, and when she launches the second signal flare, she sees the alpha of all monsters before her. The creature, the size of a New York skyscraper and with teeth in 3 rows, is indeed the cause of the drilling rig's destruction. Nora flees from the giant, but it damages part of the station, and the explosive wave pushes her closer to the entrance. Despite the oxygen deficit, Emily returns for her friend and pulls her inside. Nora's suit's oxygen level drops, but since it's very old, Emily can't remove it conventionally, so she breaks the glass with a fire extinguisher. The Roebuck station system demands immediate crew evacuation. The Alpha circles the structure as if hunting its prey, and now not only Nora but the others also see the enormous monster. Of all the capsules in working condition, only 2 remain. Emily straps in Smith and asks him to stay alive, while Nora hands the rabbit to Smith to pass it on to Paul's friends and family. Arguing that only she knows how to operate the capsules, Nora convinces Emily to get inside. However, Emily notices that the 3rd capsule is malfunctioning and wants to stay behind to fix it together. At first, Nora persuades her nicely, asking her to save herself for the sake of her love for Smith. But when Emily starts to protest, Nora hits her in the nose to save time on lengthy discussions. Apologizing to her, Nora promises they will meet on the surface. The 2nd capsule swiftly ascends just in front of the Alpha, sending her friends to the surface. Nora doesn't even attempt to fix the capsule. She sits in the flooded compartment and smiles slightly, as if ready to reunite with her beloved. Nora notices the sound emitted by the Alpha and sees on the radar that all the smaller creatures are rushing to catch up with the evacuation capsules. Fearful of feeling helpless and useless, Nora suddenly realizes that it's just a feeling, and it's moments like these that compel a person to act. Before securing the capsules, Nora looks at her last chance for survival, but she decides to save her soul rather than her physical shell. Considering her action as redemption for the guilt of losing her loved one, Nora plans to detonate all the deep-sea creatures. She maximally loads the core of the drilling rig and adjusts the strike to safeguard the rescue capsules.
So let's light this shit up.
The nuclear explosion consumes the Alpha and all the small monsters of the Mariana Trench. In the news, it's reported about 2 survivors of the accident at the drilling site, but the company prohibits interviews with them. All materials related to the incident in the Pacific Ocean are classified and not open for discussion. Despite a tragedy of such magnitude, Tian Industries resumes drilling operations in the Mariana Trench, never having determined the cause of the catastrophic failure. How do you think the consequences of drilling in the Mariana Trench might manifest in real life? Looking forward to your responses in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. Till next time.